Yeah, it's a good question. In the meantime, Violet looks like is loading up a shuttle with DTs. So, I mean, it's going to be very, very obviously different strategies from these two players. I'd be curious to see, with the observation on the field right now for Horang, whether or not Violet will actually manage to successfully get these DTs into a position where they'll be able to affect any harm. I would have to imagine that with all the photon cannons that he's placed out this secondary location, that he might actually be kind of cannon light in his own base, which could be extremely detrimental.
There's one cannon in the mineral line. The Zealots and the DTs are hacking away at that, and I don't know how long that cannon's going to last. Not long enough.
Yeah, it looks like that was not long at all, and thankfully it does look like he has some an observer in place, so that didn't affect as much damage as it could have. But that cannon did not really affect much of in the way of protection at all.
Yeah, a second one in that mineral line would have really helped things a lot.
Agreed, agreed. And I don't know still what Horang is doing with this cannon wall as he continues to invest money in it. But we haven't obviously seen it come into play yet. I'm just going to be more than a little bit curious to see how this goes down when the actual engagement comes in and Violet finds out about this ridiculous little fencing in that's been going on for quite some time now.
I'm amazed that he hasn't spotted this yet. How could he miss it? It's right outside of his base. If he even just wandered a Dragoon over to the base of that cliff, he would have, like, 6 cannons shooting at it.
Ooh, and loses a shuttle in addition to that as well. And there he goes. Okay, now he has to be aware that this is that's there. And no, it completely stonewall in terms of expression. It's maybe he did know about it before. But at this point, he's definitely aware of it, having ran that Dragoon in there for some intelligence. And now let's see what he responds with. I have no idea what he's going to do in order to try and circumvent.
Well, he's got the 2 shuttles. He might try to elevator his units down, and it looks like that's what he's starting to do. But Horang is right there to start attacking any of the units leaving his base piecemeal. So, looking good for Horang, and he picks off another shuttle to boot.
Yeah, and look at the damage that he's doing with these Dragoons. I mean, he just had such an overwhelming number, but at the same time, Violet continues to elevate her units in, and with the combination of forces with the Zealots as well as the Dragoons constantly being ferried in, we're seeing the difference in the number of gateways and the way that the economy was actually being spent, or that the resources were being spent, with Violet having a far more diverse army and being able, even with the fact that he's ferrying his units in to combat, still managing to put up a very decent fight.
Yeah, and I think also Horang now has two spots that he has to defend. So he has to split his army to either defend his wall of cannons or defend this drop zone. And he's going to be a little bit hard pressed to do both because Violet, while he didn't take a 3rd base or anything, he did amass a large number of Zealots and Dragoons inside of his base.
Yeah, indeed, and it looks like now with upgraded speed lots that he is just going to continue ferrying units and ferrying more. It's like the Shuttle Express here, just bringing in more and more units to affect as much damage as possible. And with the upgraded speed, Zealots against Dragoons, that's a very favorable matchup for Violet.
Yeah, and Violet's dropping cleverly. He's going into different places, and now Templar on the field, storming these Dragoons. Very nice indeed, and morphing up an Archon as well, saving his Templars. Very impressive there.
And at this point, it looks like he has firmly gained control over that drop spot. So, I mean, his persistence there is really starting to pay off. And at the same time, Horang has literally, I don't think we've seen any of those cannons fire except for that single time that his Violet Zealot ran into them. So, proving to be relatively, or actually completely ineffectual in this match.
Yeah, it was a creative idea, and it would have worked out really well for Horang if Violet was, for lack of a better word, dumb enough to attack Horang where he was strong, where he had all of these cannons, but instead, Violet attacking Horang where he's weak, and seems to have circumvented this contain, at least for now, or is at least still contesting.
Yeah, actively contesting, and I mean, it seems like we're starting to see it come into play. The fact that Violet just is continuing to macro up. We just keep seeing units coming and coming and coming, and an additional shuttle now has been added to this conga line, and he just continues to ferry in more and more units. And I just don't know how long Horang is going to be able to hold up under this pressure. It looks like eventually he's just going to get overrun, especially with the diversity in the units and the addition of these storms and zealots. Oh wow, beautiful storms. I mean, that's just the equalizer. I mean, with the mix of units that Violet's presenting him and the beautiful control that he's displaying. I mean, just amazing micro. Both utilizing the spellcasters as well as these shuttles. It looks like he's just in a firm position to go ahead and take over this game.
I agree, and it's really interesting to consider with all of this contestation over at that drop spot. It seemed that Violet might have left the front of his main base open for Horang to attack there. I don't know if that was a poor judgment on Horang's part, not gunning for the opposing base, but it looks like both players were just playing all-out attack for the last little while there, and the defenses were pretty light. Horang's only now adding his Citadel, so he's going to have slow lots, no Templars for a while, and storming all of these probes. That is brutal. Big swing
I think
for
he
Violet
literally
here,
lost
fighting his
everything.
way out of this corner.
Yeah, I mean that was just a huge. I mean, I think he lost literally every single probe at his expansion there to those storms. So I mean, he's going to be feeling that. If he wasn't already behind in this macro war, it seems as though he's just slowly and slowly falling further and further behind. And at this point, it's Violet's game to lose. I mean, look at all those units marching in with shuttle support. I think this is pretty much going to be the death knell.
If that isn't, it's the 8 Templars that we just saw in Violet's base for reinforcements that are going to be able to do it. He'd probably be able to just win with mass storms before too much longer, I would think.
Indeed, it's reminiscent of Seattle right now in Horang's base. Once those things get there, and at this point, just kind of assessing where he went wrong, I would have to imagine with this, maybe contemplating that strategy, that cannon strategy, a little bit in his mind, going over.
I wonder if that could be a viable strategy, or if.
GG.
Yeah, there's the GG. I wonder if that's a viable strategy or if it was really a boneheaded move. Violet played well to get out of it, but I could see some lesser Protosses being felled by this kind of maneuver, I think.
While that may in fact be the case, I wonder, how much better you could set it up, though. We have to take into consideration the fact that Violet really didn't find out about that until it was really well established. So, I mean, you would have to think that plays into Horang's advantage. The fact that his opponent was blind to the tactic for so long, and yet it still didn't manage to create any real effectual damage for him. I'm really not sure whether or not that's going to be anything that's going to be viable in the future.
Well, we'll see if anyone other than Horang tries it. It might also be pretty map dependent. Colosseum is like that with the third that's able to be set up on, and who knows how much longer that map's going to be in circulation, but we'll have to see. In the meantime,
Very true.
Celebrations all around for KT, finger boom, as they go on to Game 5. We're not going to cast that, although from all reports it was a pretty interesting series, and I'd encourage anyone watching to go and check out the various VODs from that.
Indeed. Definitely go ahead and check the rest of that series out. It would probably be well worth your time. In the meantime, however, thanks for casting that game with me. I appreciate it, Image, and we will see you guys in another comment.
It is a pleasure. We're going to do another game right after this, and keep an eye out for that on whatever channel this ends up on. Image out.